So yesterday, Donald Trump suggested that the election should be delayed because of mail voter fraud. So I want to read to you some Republicans out there. Many of them were against it. I'm not sure anybody agreed with him, including Mitch McConnell, by the way. So Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley was very blunt. He said, all I can say is it doesn't matter what one individual in this country says. We store our country based on the rule of law, and we want to follow the law. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu vowed his state would hold its November elections as scheduled. End of story. That's what he said. And Representative Liz Cheney, who doesn't appear to be the biggest Donald Trump supporters, leads the House Republican Conference, said the resistance to this idea among Republicans is overwhelming. So I want you to hear Donald Trump in his own words. This was yesterday during his coronavirus press conference when he suggested the election may be rigged.
And I don't want to see an election, so many years I've been watching elections, and they say the projected winner or the winner of the election. I don't want to see that take place in a week after November 3rd or a month or for everything else that can happen, years, or you never even know who won the election. You're sending out hundreds of millions of universal mail-in ballots, hundreds of millions. Where are they going? Who are they being sent to? It's common sense. You don't have to know anything about politics. And the Democrats know this.
All right. So, Michelle, first of all, as you probably are aware, Donald Trump cannot do this without congressional approval. That's number one. And there is an unfounded threat of voter fraud, at least what he's talking about. And I mentioned to you some of the other Republicans out there that are against it. What is he talking about? He doesn't even have the authority to do this.
No, I think something that people often forget is that how do we know Donald Trump? Well, we know him first and foremost as an entertainer, and he's also been the Twitter president, and he loves to control narrative. So sometimes what he does is he tweets things that are kind of out there, like, hey, maybe we should delay the election, not because, in my opinion, that he genuinely believes that, but because he wants to start a conversation about mail voter fraud. Now, we can set that aside for a minute and argue whether that happens or whether that doesn't happen. I don't think he thought in any reality that he was going to actually delay the election. The first election I covered was in 2000. It was Bush Gore. My first time working for ABC as a news anchor and reporter. That election night was a nightmare because of hanging Chads, pregnant Chads all over the place, right? And we didn't have the results officially. I believe it was like till mid-December. So delay in election results is a valid problem that we have seen in the past. It happened in 2000. So I don't think bringing up and starting a conversation was a bad thing, but in no way could he delay the election. And just as Senator Grassley said, this is not going to happen.
What I hear what you're saying. What I don't like is blaming one side of the aisle either, because there has been certain situations where there's been voter fraud on the right as well. I don't think it's one side. I also don't think it's, when Donald Trump brings up the fact that, he almost makes it as if it's going to be a guarantee. And I don't like that. And I think one thing, I hear what you're saying about his tweets, but I do think some of his tweets are dangerous. And I think when you tweet things out as the president of the United States to start a conversation with something, as long as it's legitimate, I agree with you. I have no problem with that. But what I don't like is when he puts out a tweet with no proof to back something up and, accuses the Democratic Party of something. I have a serious problem with that. I think the president of the United States has a responsibility. And we're going to talk about the coronavirus coming up here in a little bit. And I don't want to get into the coronavirus, but I just want to give you an example. And this wasn't even a tweet. When he does a press conference and he talked about, injecting yourself with disinfectant, if he wants to start.
He did not say that.
Well, he didn't say that specifically, but he certainly brought it up. Is it possible? And I think when the president of the United States says things like that, he has a responsibility. He doesn't just represent you and me. I'd like to think we're semi-intelligent people. At least you are. I don't know about myself. But but in all seriousness, I mean, he represents all people. As you know, in this country, there are a lot of stupid people in this country on both sides of the aisle. Okay?
Hey, there's stupid people everywhere,
Exactly.
and so that is always going to happen. But remember, the issue of voter fraud is something that we've been talking about for a long time. I'll harken back that the Democrats have been talking about voter fraud since 2016. So it's not like it's something that is not a part of the national conversation. It's not something that is just strictly Republican or strictly Democrat. Both sides, and the biggest fear of 2020 is if Trump wins, the Democrats are going to say foul play. And if Biden wins, the Republicans are going to say foul play. So we're in a bad spot no matter what, because there is no confidence on either side.
The president basically said he was kidding. And after this coronavirus press conference where he talked about possibly injecting yourself with disinfectants, if you recall, a day or two later, Then the excuse was, oh, I was being sarcastic. I was kidding. It seems like when he puts his foot in his mouth, which happens all the time, and when he says things either on Twitter or in a press conference like yesterday, and he realizes he effed up, then all of a sudden the narrative is, you know what? I was just kidding. I want you to listen, Michelle, to former President Barack Obama, who called out Donald Trump and Republicans at yesterday's funeral of John Lewis. And by the way, at that funeral yesterday, George W. Bush was there. George W. Bush and John Lewis did not always see eye to eye. In fact, Lewis didn't even go to his inauguration. But George W. Bush has something called class. He was there yesterday. Bill Clinton was there speaking as well. I want you to listen to Barack Obama calling out Republicans at the funeral of John Lewis. Have a listen to this.
We may no longer have to guess the number of jelly beans in a jar in order to cast a ballot. But even as we sit here, there are those in power who are doing their darndest to discourage people from voting by closing polling locations and targeting minorities and students with restrictive ID laws and attacking our voting rights with surgical precision, even undermining the Postal Service in the run-up to an election that's going to be dependent on mail-in ballots so people don't get sick.
So, Michelle, is Barack Obama wrong?
Absolutely. Doing their darndest to discourage voting. No one is discouraging voting. I mean, take Nevada, for example. You know, we just had a primary in June. It was all mail. We had 3 voting locations, and it was an utter nightmare. And the Democrats led the charge on that, not Republicans. So if you want to say that politicians overall are messing with the system, okay, we can have that discussion. But let's not make it partisan, because the Democrats have been the one leading the charge, saying there's been fraud in the elections with Russia since 2016. So this is not a partisan issue. Don't make it one.
Well, but Russia did interfere in the election.
They did with their Facebook and with their posts, and they tried to influence elections. Listen, Russia's not like this quality place. If you look at the election they just had in 2020, the number of fraud that happened in this 2020 election is through the roof.
I hear you, but our own intelligence has verified that Russia did interfere in our election. And when Donald Trump was asked about that, standing 2 feet from Vladimir Putin, he took Vladimir Putin's side over our own intelligence, which I think is utterly disgusting. And I think it's one of many moments, but probably one of the worst moments of Donald Trump presidency. You cannot stand there and take the word of an evil, murderous dictator over our own intelligence. Am I saying our own intelligence is perfect? No. Am I saying our own CIA and intelligence is always right? No. But what I am saying is you better take our word over an evil, murderous dictator like Vladimir Putin. He made it about politics. He, for whatever reason, didn't want to illegitimize, look, Donald Trump won in 2016. I haven't spoken to one prominent Democrat that doesn't admit to that. He won.
He did, but the Russians, their plan was to create division so that no matter who won, one side said it was fraud, there was a problem, someone interfered.
See, I don't think a lot of Democrats have admitted that Donald Trump won the election fair and square. All many Democrats are also saying is that, yes, Russia also did interfere. Now, to what extent did that help Donald Trump win? I don't know.
Yeah, but Americans, Democrats, also had a hissy fit all across the country on January 20th when the president was inaugurated, acting like we can't be a part of this. He's not my president. So,
well, that's a different issue, though. That's just not liking, that's just not liking the man, Donald Trump. I can only speak for myself because I'm not a Democrat, but I can tell you that when Donald Trump, and by the way, I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, didn't vote for Donald Trump.
I did know that.
But when Donald Trump was elected, my first thought was, well, I hope he just tones down the rhetoric. I hope now he is a successful president, because if he's successful, then we're all successful as Americans. I really thought he was going to tone it down a little bit. I thought he was going to lay off Twitter a little bit. I thought he was going to stop with the insults.
Oh, I think he has toned it down since campaign Trump and President Trump are two different Trumps.
You think Trump has toned it down? Have you seen what he's done just over the course of the last couple weeks in dividing this country? He's defended the Confederate flag. He's attacked NASCAR. He's attacked Bubba Wallace. He's attacked the Black Lives Matter movement. He is, I mean,
I
you
didn't
really think
say
he's
that
changed?
he stopped. I said that he has toned things down. So the Donald Trump that said I could go onto Times Square and shoot people and no one's going to care, those types of comments don't happen as much anymore. Going after Megyn Kelly, going after Rosie O'Donnell, degrading women that way, that has stopped significantly.
2 months ago, he went after Nancy Pelosi's teeth and dentures.
Well, Nancy Pelosi is fair game because Nancy Pelosi...
Her looks, though? You think
I
that's...
don't think he should attack someone's looks, but they attack each other left and right. I mean, and so
Disagreements are okay, but I don't think as the president of the United States you should ever go after anybody's looks. I think that is. But hey, let's see what you guys think.
I would
Let's-
agree.